Todd Howards has admitted that Fallout 76's development was difficult for the company, and shortly after that, he teased the new engine developments that are going to drive their upcoming titles Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6. Of course, the company took major flack after announcing they would be sticking with the creation engine, and today we're going to get to the bottom of what that actually means. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another industry report. Of course, be sure to check out yesterday's regarding the disappointing business model of the Elder Scrolls Blades, and the second one that is going to be uploaded today. As interesting as the Fallout 76 situation is that Todd talked about, let's first kick it off with Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6. So very little is known about either of these games, with us barely hearing anything about Starfield since its announcement, and again, well, about as little for the Elder Scrolls 6, bar a quick tease that Todd Howards confirmed that neither game would be featured at this E3, meaning that Bethesda's presence is very likely going to focus on Wolfenstein, Rage 2, and Doom Eternal, which certainly does make sense with those being their current generation titles, and while Starfield and TES 6, of course, being next gen. Now, next gen doesn't really mean anything to PC gamers, and both games are already receiving flack due to Bethesda's choice to keep on using the creation engine. Much of that criticism from a lot of the gaming press and audience has been wildly inaccurate, and clearly is not made from a position of understanding game engines, which in fairness I wouldn't really expect from consumers. As for my background, well look, game engine programming was literally the primary focus of my degree. My final project in university was the development of a rendering engine in C++ and GLSL, so I mean, I kind of know my stuff in that. And then also in running the game studio, well, I regularly work in Unity, so when it comes to game engines, I pretty much do know what the crack is, and how it all ties into the Bethesda situation, especially in light of the most recent tease that we got from Todd and Co. In a 25th anniversary celebration video, they teased their use of photogrammetry for both characters and environments in Starfield and TES 6. What does this actually mean though? Because without really knowing what an engine is, that doesn't really mean anything. So a game engine is a core framework, let's just say, that can be expanded upon through the addition of modular systems and plugins. For an example, the renderer that you build onto your engine. In this case, it means that Bethesda have built photogrammetry support into the creation engine, essentially as another module that they can use when they are building their worlds. But what does that actually mean? Okay, well first, photogrammetry is a process that essentially digitizes real-world things. So you kind of move a camera around an object and you capture information through that camera. By running a hell of a lot of maths, photogrammetry software is able to create a detailed 3D mesh of that object as well as textures. This stuff is then all spat out in a format that will work with a game engine that supports it. So the creation engine will now support photogrammetry assets. But what does that actually mean? Well, as an example, Unity has its Unlight tool for photogrammetry assets. This involves the removal of lighting that is baked into the actual texture, taken by the camera during photogrammetry, and that leaves you with assets that are neutrally lit, meaning they can then be lit in your game. Unity also supports various forms of memory saving techniques when using photogrammetry assets, which themselves can be very memory intensive. So by saying that they've added it to the creation engine, what it more means is that their engine now supports a photogrammetry workflow. They've likely integrated some middleware to allow them to do that, and it probably also involved the training of their art department and establishing team workflows that will be needed for the whole thing to operate smoothly. Additionally, it also means that their engine will support photogrammetry created assets, such as those sold by a company like Quixel, as well as just other assets from things related to photogrammetry. As an example, those Quixel assets were recently used by the Metro team to make Exodus look as good as it does on the budget that it had. As you can see, engines are very modular and extensible. Take Frostbite. The problem is not that EA are using Frostbite. The problem is they used it before they had expanded its functionality for their other teams. Fallout 76 is actually a great example of this. It features a new lighting system, landscape generation, and a new renderer, and in certain scenes you really can see those things, yet in other scenes the game will look downright hideous. So the scenes that lean on the more modern additions to the engine look great, so the big vistas with lovely lighting, but the scenes that rely on just the close-ups, they look a lot worse. What benefits does photogrammetry bring? Well, quite simply, better quality assets, both big and small. That means that it does work to solve one of the weakest parts of Bethesda titles. So combine the photogrammetry assets with their rather gorgeous lighting, and you likely will have a massive visual upgrade over what we currently have. Now, photogrammetry for characters is quite different indeed. If you would like to learn more, I would recommend checking out the video that the Star Citizen team released on their process of digitizing Gary Oldman. Now, photogrammetry was actually used to digitize Skyrim Grandma, which was a very nice thing to see indeed. But the process they used in her essentially, captures her skin in multiple different ways, maps it to a 3D model of her face that's able to work out, and then essentially it gives you controllers for all of, the bones that you can then move about with a highly detailed facial model. Now, how that data is used is totally up to them, and really it will vary depending on the capabilities of their animation system. Certainly, you can't just do facial capture and have the whole thing magically work. Even facial capture requires a lot of work, cleanup and things like that from animators. And indeed, take Naughty Dog. They actually still hand animate their characters' faces, only using the footage of actors' faces as a reference. So in short, engines are modular. They bring together a wide variety of different tools. Fallout 76 has wonderful lighting, but terrible animations. Why? Well, one system is new, the other one is old. The Bethesda problems are likely just down to them thinking they can get away with some stuff for longer than they really could, and maybe having a bit of an understaffed engineering department. So by treating a game engine like a single monolithic bit of software, we really do miss out on the nuance and the detail that is required to have a proper discussion of this topic. Now, from what I understand, Starfield does involve a revamp of their animation system. That would certainly make sense given the photogrammetry created characters, so that could also have a large impact on the final product there. Now, from what Todd said, Starfield pretty much uses Gen 1 of this tech, while TES 6 will use Gen 2, essentially just benefiting from them having went through the whole asset creation and integration process with Starfield. So overall, this photogrammetry news is really good, and I hope I've been able to communicate here how engines are a lot more of a nuanced topic than one may first think, and how they really are not just captured by looking at the latest tech demo from Unity or Epic or something like that. Now, from my understanding of everything that is involved here, the things that they're working and upgrading are very high impact things where the engine support should have a pretty darn noticeable effect on the quality of the final product. And hopefully that's something we see in these two games, which I'm extremely excited for. I love the Elder Scrolls, and you know what? A science fiction RPG from them, I think that would be pretty damn cool as well. Okay, next let's move on to the 76 news. And really, Fallout 76, it is a game that shows how unbalanced that particular version of the creation engine is, having aspects that look like they are, well, some from the current generation, some from the previous one. Now, in a developer session, Todd Howards said that the end of 2018 was an interesting time, and he went on to say that they had a lot of difficulties during the development of 76, and that sometimes those difficulties showed up on screen, and that is something that of course they regret and they don't really want to have happen. That's all very true, and I think what was a bit more revealing though is that they ended up saying, we knew that launch was only the beginning, and that to me does show a bit of a release it now, fix it later attitude. Their beta was not timed to be an actual beta. Given the consistency of the widely reported issues, there's no way that they did not know the scale of the problem they were facing. So let's analyze this from the devs' perspective. They likely had a solid ship date, development had been rough, and they knew the game was in a rough state. Thinking about their goals, well, goal number one was to get it out on time, knowing that unlike other titles, at least with a live service game, they would have an opportunity to fix it over time. From their perspective, it essentially was likely just doing the best with a bad hand. Of course, from the consumer's perspective, well, it's a company releasing a product in a terrible state and still asking them for money. So while it is good to hear Todd say all of that, it is also rather revealing. Though, of course, we do know that fix-it-later mentality was there, because if it wasn't there, they would have delayed the game. Still, Todd was clear about their longer-term plans. He said that 76 is a Fallout platform for the future, and given how Starfield and TES 6 will likely take up, 2024, 2025, etc., then yeah, 76 is probably the last Fallout game for a decade, so in a way, it could be a smart move to prevent a total Fallout drought over time, but only if they're able to deliver on the future content. Now, they mostly talked about the current spring season of content, but they did mention the upcoming summer raids and suggested that the upcoming Wastelanders update would would be quite fundamental in how it changes the way the game is played. Of course, that could be hype, we just need to wait and see what's actually there, but we certainly are seeing new elements being added in, with the raids actually introducing instancing tech, making them function in a manner far more similar to an MMORPG dungeon or raid. So it is totally possible for this game to make a comeback. Now, sure, they are very different, Bethesda, very different to Hello Games and No Man's Sky, but just look what Sean Murray and co have been able to do with No Man's Sky. They really did turn that project around. It took them a while, but, well, with this, it could be the case that in 2 years we'll have a massive Fallout experience that's less buggy and a lot more well-rounded in terms of its content. That totally is possible, as long as they do commit to delivering that content for years to come, and that is something that Todd did reiterate on the stream. So look, I'm not thrilled at the prospect of playing 76 right now, and of course I have been very critical to them, but I'm still open to trying the game if they actually stick with it and keep on deving it to the, well, just to the state where it's something I'm interested in. Now, on that topic, if you're a 76 player and you've been sticking with the game, let me know how it is now as compared to launch. I'd certainly love to hear what you've got to say, and I am trying to judge at what point I should jump in, commit to playing it for 20 hours, and then share my thoughts with you. Chances are it'll be in the summer or winter updates. But there you go, a Bethesda update. I think a lot of interesting stuff, especially on the game engine front. I think it's really important to get that information out there. Most of the journalists and pundits just, don't have a technical education in this sort of thing. I don't expect them to. It has unfortunately led to a lot of misinformation being spread, a lot of false assumptions being made, a lot of things that kind of, just kind of hit off my internal cringe whenever I see them in comment sections or whatever, because they frankly just aren't accurate. And I think it's very important to be critical of products when they come out and all of that stuff, but I think that criticism is a lot stronger when it comes from a place of reality. So that was really the main goal of this video, and I guess as well, it's something that most people don't know about. So really, if I do know about that stuff, it really is on me to share it and get the word out there. Anyway, let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching this video, and with that, I'll see you next time.